Hey, what's up, hockey fans? Welcome back to the channel. Mike here, Sasquatch NHL. And here in Seattle, we're getting geared up for the first ever playoff appearance from the Seattle Kraken. Everybody in the city is extremely pumped, excited to see the Kraken in the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs for the first time. But a lot of new fans have no idea what to expect. But something that is a certainty is that when the puck drops at Climate Pledge Arena in Game 3, at home for Seattle, the crowd is going to be loud, raucous, and all that energy that we know that goes with the 12th man and the Seahawks has started to translate over to the Seattle Kraken here in Season 2 in Seattle. But Seattle's going to have to start this series out on the road, going to Denver, Colorado, to take on the defending Stanley Cup champions, the Colorado Avalanche, here starting Tuesday, April 18th. Thanks for dropping by the channel, you guys. It's great to have you along. I'm going to preview this series and talk a little bit about what's happened with the Kraken this year and how they were able to make the playoffs in Season 2 and if they can shock the world here in the playoffs in 2023. Most that know me know I'm a pretty chill dude, but when it comes to the NHL and playoff hockey, things here tend to get a little crazy, especially when the camera's off. But if you're anything like me, it doesn't really matter where you end up watching from, whether it's standing on the couch, upside down in your chair, standing, pacing around, yelling maybe even hiding your eyes at times. One thing's for sure, we all have our own playoff hockey watching rituals. I'd love to hear what yours is if you want to share with me down in the comments or send me a picture or message over on Twitter. I always make time to reply. As we've seen over the years, most inexperienced and young teams going into the Stanley Cup playoffs have to learn to walk a bit before they can run, but that doesn't mean the Seattle Kraken can't make some magic happen this year. Seattle looks to be one of the teams to join National Hockey League lore by taking down a defending Stanley Cup champion, this year facing the Colorado Avalanche in round 1. At first glance, this might seem like an insurmountable task, but history tells us it's definitely possible, and Seattle is a very sneaky team. On top of that, Seattle has slightly more individual playoff experience than most might realize at first glance. Seattle will lean on players like Jaden Schwartz, Jordan Eberle, Yanni Gourde, and former Avalanche goaltender Philip Grubauer to help lead the way as some of the youngsters get their playoff legs under them. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty and details, I whipped up a super important graphic for you guys that I wanted to share. Here's a list of things from the regular season that actually mean something once the playoffs start. Nothing. Literally nothing matters from the regular season once the playoffs start. The playoffs are a completely different beast, everything resets, and everybody starts from zero. So as we talk about how we got here and try to prognosticate what might happen in this series, gotta remember that it was just part of the story leading us to this point, and it won't predict future success going forward, especially in the craziness that is the NHL playoffs. This series is truly going to be a battle of superstars versus team depth. The Kraken come in with 6 20-goal scorers, multiple players with career highs in goals and assists and points. Pretty amazing work from the Kraken depth-wise this season. They've had somewhat serviceable special teams and much improved goaltending over last season, which can probably be directly attributable to the whole team playing better defense across the board. But let's take a closer look at what this Kraken team has done to get into the playoffs, and a lot of it has to do with scoring more goals, a lot more goals. Offensively, the Kraken completely flipped the script in their second season with a high tide of goals and offensive production. Jared McCann leading the way in this category, 40 goals for him, a career high, and just absolutely out of his mind all season long for Seattle. Matty Beniers, the rookie and leading Calder Trophy candidate for Seattle, was second in goal scoring for Seattle with 24 goals. Daniel Sprong started out on a PTO, a paid tryout for the Kraken during training camp, and he's blown away everybody's expectations this year. 21 goals for Daniel Sprong. Jaden Schwartz, also a great bounce-back year from him as well after dealing with injuries in Season 1 with the Kraken. 21 goals for Jaden Schwartz. Oliver Bjorkstrand, who came over in that incredible trade by Ron Francis, where he basically robbed the Columbus Blue Jackets due to salary cap issues, had a really solid year for the Kraken. An amazing, underrated two-way player, plays really responsible. He put up 20 goals in his first campaign with the Seattle Kraken. Jordan Eberle, he's been around the league and is part of the leadership core on this team. Had a great year for Seattle, came through with 20 goals for him, and a lot of those were big ones. 4, to be exact, were game-winning goals. That was tied for first in that category for Seattle. So clutch goals from Jordan Eberle. And of course, on defense, Vince Dunn, a breakout season for him in a contract year. He'll be looking for a hefty extension here in the summer. He was second on the team for total points with 64 points. Jared McCann, the overall leader, with 70. All in all, Seattle's scoring this year was the #1 reason in my mind for how they were able to find additional success en route to their first ever Stanley Cup playoff berth. But Seattle will need their power play to come through in key moments if they want to steal this series. Kraken just 21st in the league with the man advantage, not able to find consistent results in this category, and you really could feel the difference, especially when Andrei Burakovsky went down due to injury. The Kraken penalty kill, on the other hand, same spot in the league, 21st, but this part of their game has been trending up since the turn of the calendar year as they dug themselves out of last place in that category when shorthanded. Like all playoff matchups, special teams will be a huge key to this series, and if Seattle can continue their recent success on the penalty kill, this might be a really interesting series to watch. The goaltending matchups will also be storybook material as Philip Grubauer gets a chance to face his old team, the Colorado Avalanche, as he's been trending up of late as well. Drew performed really well against his former team throughout the regular season, but like I said, it doesn't really matter. But just for reference, he did only allow 1.7 goals per game against the Avalanche and a .928 save percentage over Colorado in matchups this season. So Seattle will need more of that and then some if they hope to advance. Despite a late season injury to his glove hand, Martin Jones will be available again for Seattle here as backup in the playoffs. He backstopped the Kraken at a very key juncture during the season when Grubauer went down with a groin injury. Jones had an incredible resurgent year. He collected 27 wins for the Kraken team and got them through some extremely tough times to help the Kraken secure their first ever playoff spot in the Stanley Cup playoff. But let's talk about the Colorado Avalanche now. They come in as defending Stanley Cup champs, but they'll have some key players missing due to injury. Colorado will be without captain Gabriel Landeskog. He's going to miss this series and the entire duration of the NHL playoffs if the Avalanche advance. Cale Makar, the dynamic young defender, a question mark coming in, sounds like he is going to be good to go for Game 1, but definitely something to keep an eye on as this series progresses. The Avalanche are also hoping to have one of their big and extremely tough defenders back in the mix. Josh Manson should be available for Game 1, according to the latest reports. But make no mistake, it doesn't really matter who's on the injury list for the Colorado Avalanche because NHL superstar Nathan MacKinnon can put this team on his shoulders, as we've seen him do so many times in the past in the playoffs. MacKinnon tallied 111 points this season with a whopping 42 goals and 69 assists. That's just elite level talent, no way around it, and it's extremely hard to defend this guy. His speed, creativity, and drive to the net are unmatched. Oh, and don't forget about 55 goal scorer Mikko Rantanen, also another league superstar. 105 total points for him, also set an Avalanche record for goals in a season since they moved to Denver, before when they were the Quebec Nordiques. Joe Sakic held that record at 54 back in 2000-2001, so that now belongs to Mikko Rantanen. So these two guys were the major offensive engine for the Colorado Avalanche. Maybe an area if you can slow those two guys down somehow, you'll find success if you're Seattle. But man, those are some tough guys to contain for sure. The Avalanche power play unit this season, 6th best in the league with a 24.5% success rate, so Seattle's penalty kill will have their hands full. This will definitely be an emphasis area from Coach Dave Hackstall to his team to stay out of the penalty box, stay disciplined, and don't do any extracurricular stuff after the whistles if you can avoid it. The Avalanche penalty kill, on the other hand, not so magical, a little bit more in the mediocre category, 17th in the league overall. So if Seattle's going to make some noise in this series, they're going to need to find a way to work hard to draw penalties, turn a couple of those opportunities into goals at key moments. In net for Colorado, fantastic goaltender Alexander Georgiev. He had the 6th best save percentage in the NHL at .918, allowing just 2.53 goals per game. Pretty amazing. The backup goaltender Pavel Francouz, also not too shabby, more than serviceable if they have to go to him if something goes wrong with Georgiev. For Colorado, he put up a .915 save percentage and 2.61 goals against through just 16 games in relief this season. So a pretty heavy workload for goaltender Alexander Georgiev, 62 games under his belt this year. Maybe something to keep an eye on if the Avalanche make a deep run in the playoffs. In the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs, we always talk about home ice advantage and how big it can be, but in this series, home ice advantage might just be a little bit of a cliche due to the fact that Seattle and Colorado have both played really well on the road this season. Colorado went 29-11-1 in their white sweaters as guests. Seattle Kraken went 26-11-4. Both squads embodying the phrase Road Warriors in the regular season. Seattle, though, will need to translate that into some postseason success if they hope to have any chance of making this a series. You've got to steal a game on the road to flip the advantage in your favor. We'll see if they can get it done. And also, Seattle hasn't been great at home, just 20-17-4 at Climate Pledge Arena. So to me, home ice advantage might be a little bit overstated this series overall. As we take a quick look at the rosters here going into Game 1, a lot of moving pieces for the Colorado Avalanche due to injuries, kind of solidifying who's going to be in that Game 1 lineup and who's not. So this will definitely change, but this was as close as I could get it for today's recording. Of course, Nate MacKinnon on the top line there, flanked by Rodriguez and Rantanen. Just an incredible first line overall. Like we've talked about, Georgiev going to be in net. And some pretty dynamic defenders for the Colorado Avalanche. Like we talked about, Cale Makar sounds like he's going to be good to go for Game 1. Taves, Girard, some great names on the blue line for the Colorado Avalanche. The Kraken, on the other hand, of course, without Andrei Burakovsky, he's still on injured reserve, won't be back till next season. Donskoy also not available, also a former Colorado Avalanche. Sounds like Geeky and Sprong will probably be in the lineup. I would expect Froden to come out. And of course, that top line, McCann, Beniers, and Eberle has been fantastic all year long. I fully expect Grew to be dialed in and engaged to take on his former team. On defense for Seattle, that dynamic duo, Vince Dunn and Adam Larsson, they've been great all season long. They're going to have to be good in this series if the Kraken have a chance. Jamie Alexiak definitely stepped his game up this year. And Justin Schultz may or may not be able to go for Game 1. It's something we're monitoring here in Seattle. Based on the reports, sounds like he was a question mark as we come into this series. Keep up with me over on Twitter for the latest updates. So that's a quick look at the rosters and the line combinations as we head into Game 1 of this series. I try to keep these rosters updated, and I'll post them for you guys. Another big factor in playoff series is the coaching, obviously. Can adjustments be made on the fly in between games to counter each other's strategy? In this case, Dave Hackstall comes in with much less experience. He's only coached in 12 playoff games with a record of 4-8, so he's going to have to learn a lot on the fly. As Jared Bednar has been through a lot. He's been through playoff failures and playoff success, now a Stanley Cup champion. His record far exceeds Dave Hackstall's, much more experience. 63 games he's coached in the playoffs with a record of 40-23. So it's going to be very interesting to see how these coaches counter each other and adjust on the fly in the series. And just as the Kraken youngsters are going to have to learn as they go through this playoff experience and get their legs under them a little bit, Dave Hackstall hopefully is also going to learn during this process and evolve and adjust as a coach as we try to match up against a really strong team, the Colorado Avalanche. I'm hopeful. I'm positive. I can't wait to see what Seattle can do. I think they can make some noise, steal a couple of games, and make this an interesting series. We'll see what they can do. I would love to hear what you guys think is going to happen. What is your prediction for this series? Who's going to win, and how many games is it going to take? Let me know down in the comments. And while you're here, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button for me. It helps out the channel. And maybe check out the next one I've got linked right here at Sasquatch NHL. Got more updates and live recaps coming for you throughout the playoffs. Keep coming back. Have a great day, and let's go Kraken.